Pain promotes growth. That's the theme of To Your Eternity or Fumetsu no Anata by Yoshitoki Oima. And that's what you'll feel watching it. I don't cry that easily, but I keep my tissue box close at hand going into each episode. Okay, depressing and makes you cry. Doesn't sound like fun, does it? So why should you watch this anime or even read the manga? Because it is a beautiful masterpiece. And in this spoiler-free review, I will tell you why I think that is. The premise of the story is a quite unusual one. It is about an orb, an immortal being that can respond to stimuli by transforming into the thing that caused that stimulus. The orb starts out as a rock and then turns into a wolf. From there on, it spends time with different people and at some point obtains their form. The more forms it collects, the more things it can change into. In fact, the orb was created to accumulate all the forms there are, or at least as many as it can, before the world will come to an end. And there are destructive forces at work that want to stop the main character from achieving that goal. To Your Eternity follows the orb that goes by the name Fushi, which means immortal. The story shows Fushi's struggle to understand what it means to be human, and later what it means to be immortal in a world full of mortals. First of all, the world the story is set in feels extremely realistic. In the beginning, the orb finds itself in an ice and snow-covered wasteland. Next, Fushi is in a small village inside a forest, and then in a different town, and so on. Each of those cultures feels different and well thought out. Depending on the location, it has its own architecture, customs, or religion. So the world building is really well done. The art of the anime is stunning and captures the beautiful style from the manga perfectly. I don't know if it's the pastelish colors or the white-haired wandering protagonist, but this show gave me strong Mushishi vibes. And I don't seem to be the only one, cause it is the number 2 ranked recommendation on my anime list. For those who are not familiar, my anime list has a site for each anime, and there's always a tab with recommendations for other anime that are similar to the one you're looking at. It's a great feature I've used quite a bit to fill the void a great show left once it ended. So while waiting for more episodes of To Your Eternity, you could look into Mushishi in the meantime. If you want to hear my thoughts on Mushishi, I have a review linked in the info box. But back to Fumetsu no Anata. This anime has a killer soundtrack. The music accompanying the tragic moments rip out your heart. I made the mistake to watch the first episode right before going to bed. Trust me, you don't want to do that. I cried my eyes out and I knew what was coming. I read the manga before watching it and it still got me. But of course this is not a bad thing. Actually, it is great that an anime is able to evoke such strong feelings. And the soundtrack does not only complement the dark parts of the story perfectly. For epic moments it makes your skin tingle all over. And the lighthearted moments, yeah, there actually are some of those, will make you feel warm and fuzzy. Following an immortal being sounds like there are not a lot of stakes. So why does it work here? Because Fushi may be immortal, but he is not invulnerable. And because Yoshitoki Oima found the perfect antagonistic force for a being like Fushi. I won't spoil any details here, but I think the antagonists work really well. And the other side characters are incredible. Each of them has a different backstory, goals, and personality. Not one feels like a cliché, but instead they feel like real people. I expected no less from the author of A Silent Voice, but boy does Yoshitoki Oima deliver when it comes to characters. Actually, there is only very few things I can think of, but one would definitely be the movements of the animals in the anime. Sometimes they look really awkward and stiff. It's just something minor, but considering the otherwise incredible art, that stuck out like a sore thumb. Other than that, well, the manga is not finished yet, but there are some big changes starting with volume 13, and I'm not sure yet how I feel about it. But I definitely still enjoy reading it, and yeah, I want to keep the spoiler free, so I won't go into more details here. And of course, the anime is not finished yet, but judging from the overall quality so far and how truthful it adapts the manga, I don't think I will, but I still reserve the right to change my mind. The plot does work really well overall, though it has some weak points here and there. But again, to keep this spoiler free, I won't go into details. However, to me it felt like there has been a slight decline in the quality of the plot from beginning to end. Okay, so far the anime is a really faithful adaptation from the manga. I hope they'll keep it that way, and won't start rushing through the story at some point. Judging from the images that we see in the opening, I think the anime will adapt the manga volumes 1 to 6, which would make 54 chapters. At the time I'm making this video, we got 6 episodes that cover the manga chapters 1 to 13. The anime is supposed to be 20 episodes long, so that makes my 6-volume adaptation prediction quite likely, I think. But I'm assuming that this is gonna be the only opening for this season and that they will keep adapting the story at a similar pace as before. I hope they'll do that. Not just so I can be right, even though I wouldn't mind, of course, everyone loves to be right, but actually because I hope they'll keep up the good pacing, since I think To Your Eternity is a story that profits from this kind of pacing and not overloading episodes with more than necessary. If they did that, I think it would lose a lot of its depth and emotional impact. Okay, so what is my overall opinion on To Your Eternity? The plot is good, I can't pinpoint it, but something was missing for me to give it a perfect score. Maybe because at times it's focusing on the characters so hard that it's easy to lose sight of the overarching plot. So far the plot felt really strong in earlier volumes, but shows a slight decline in the later chapters. But up to the point the manga is at, it is still a 4 out of 5, and I think my final score will depend highly on how it will end. The characters are amazing though. They all have unique personalities that work really well for their backstories. There was one character for whom I disliked the character development at first because it was quite extreme, but the more I thought about it, the more sense it made to me. But I feel like there could have been a better transition to make this less jarring on the first read through. But overall the characters get a 4.5 out of 5 from me. The world building is great and show don't tell is used very well. The only thing I was missing was a big picture. Each individual culture was well thought out and portrayed in a great way, but except for 2 of them, they felt a bit fragmented. So I'll place the world building at a 4.5 out of 5. There is not much to say about the art. The art in the manga as well as in the anime is amazing. It's so beautiful that it deserves nothing less than a 5 out of 5. Pretty much the same goes for the soundtrack. It captures the mood of each scene perfectly and therefore deserves a 5 out of 5. Okay, now to overall enjoyment. This is a tricky one. Do I enjoy crying this much? Well, okay, to put it differently, I enjoy shows that are able to evoke emotions in me. And To Your Eternity is one of those. It makes you forget the reality around you because everything about it immerses you in its world. And in my opinion, an anime or manga that can do that deserves a 5 out of 5 for overall enjoyment. Okay, so that is my take on the still running anime and manga of To Your Eternity. I hope both will get to a satisfying conclusion. So what did you think of To Your Eternity? Which moment made you cry? If you enjoyed this review, please leave a like, and if you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you in future videos. Anyway, farewell.